For the next talk, we have the state of the Cephalopod. So this is going to be more of a technical update from all the various teams in the Ceph and developers and folks working on different parts of the Ceph. So if everybody would like to come up on stage, we'll quickly say hello, and then we'll go through. So we're not going to go through everybody here. They'll introduce themselves as they go through their individual updates. But you can see there's quite a lot of different areas in Ceph these days, and so a lot of effort is going into all these different places. And it's good to put a face to a name sometimes. So please, if you see folks throughout the conference, say hello. If it's something you want to talk about, please let us know. We're happy to discuss and get feedback from anything that you guys are interested in talking about as users and developers. So with that said, I think we'll go right into it. Yeah.
So, state of the Cephalopod. Every year we do this. What's different? This is going to be solely a technical update. We did the community update and everything earlier with Dan and Josh. I also want to say some of the tech leads couldn't make it in person, so we have other people representing their areas. So feel free to see new faces and ask questions that you have about their components. All right, so as far as release schedule is concerned, we released Squid in August 2024, and it's been a strong release so far. So I'm very happy that we spend a lot of time in validating the release, in doing a lot of large-scale testing, et cetera, that we could do at our level, and that's paid off. We are currently working on the Tentacle release. That should hopefully come out 12 months or less than that. We'll try to see how we do with the schedule and the next Cephalocon. Maybe announce Tentacle at the next Cephalocon. Something to look out for. We always maintain 2 active releases. We have 17.2.8, which is very close to end of life. We hope 17.2.8 is the final Quincy release, if nothing goes wrong. And we support upgrade to 2 releases. So that's something that's been forever true. As far as technical focus areas, again, from the community point of view, I want to re-emphasize. If you are looking into what the Ceph project is doing, what the focus of the developers are, these are the 4 focus areas. All of the developer talks and all the component leads are going to talk about examples of things that are being done in these areas. These areas are consistent performance at scale. We want to be able to improve performance. We said that Ceph prefers consistency and correctness over performance, but performance does not need to take a back seat, and our current emphasis is going to be performance. We'll have examples later about what exactly is coming. Ease of use. We continue to invest in this area, and this is going to be like a never-ending thing. As long as our users are not happy, we are going to continue to improve the usability of Ceph. Expanded protocol support and use cases. I kind of touched upon that in my previous talk, so I'll just skim over it. But as far as the next major area is TCO and storage efficiency. A lot of work being done to reduce TCO of Ceph even further. So here we have a list of all the Ceph components. You are probably aware of some of them. And we also have some new faces that you might see today that you are probably not aware of, but you are using some of that software. So I'll let you have a read at this on your own. But there's a lot of exciting stuff going on in this area. All right, so what's new in Squid and what's coming up in Tentacle? Let's do it. So I am filling in on behalf of Radoslav. Mark mentioned he's the current tech lead of Rados. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here with us today. But he and the entire team, and I'm very happy to say that we have lots of things that came out in the Squid release. So we had all the Elastic Shared Blob work that Adam did to optimize performance for snapshot-intensive workloads, particularly for RBD mirroring use cases. We have BlueStore RocksDB LZ4 compression that Mark had a PR to enable, which provides increased average performance and reduced fast device space, essentially. We also have tons of improvements in the EC configuration area that are coming up in the Tentacle release, but what came out in Squid was something called multi-step rule that allows you to do smaller erasure coding profiles in smaller clusters. We also have something really cool that I, again, spoke about, generalization of the stretch mode. So now there is Rados level 3 availability zone, stretch cluster facility available in Ceph. We have tons of improvements in Scrub, that area we keep improving. We have an op tracker for the Ceph manager. People who found hard to debug a Ceph manager, it's going to be better, of course. So we look for feedback in this area, by the way. So we want to enhance this more, but I would like to get more user experience from this area. And finally, we have the online read balancer. As far as Tentacle is concerned, there's tons of improvements. The whole focus is going to be to improve TCO across all workloads. And what's going to be game-changing is for block. We are going to have partial reads, partial writes. We are going to also do direct reads and direct writes. So lots of performance improvements and lower latency expected in the Tentacle release. The OMAP listing topic came up yesterday in the power user session. There's work done in this area, which is going to improve performance by 5x, hopefully, in the Tentacle release. More Scrub improvements and manager robustness. So there's tons of stuff that is going to be done in the manager robustness area, particularly to do with robustness and scale. A cool new feature that we plan to include is availability score. So currently, you only get to see a current available state of the cluster by Ceph status, but you don't have a record of how Ceph has been doing over time. So the availability score feature is supposed to be able to communicate how available Ceph has been over a period of time. And there's going to be this is something that came up at the user dev meeting. People wanted the ability to get out of stretch mode and get into a regular mode. So we have that ability now in Tentacle. And there's also going to be preview of client versus client QoS. So we already have background QoS. This is going to be the first step for client versus client. And there's further improvements in Blue Store, in compression, and in allocator areas. And particularly, one that needs user feedback is about the scraper facility, which is about analyzing and replaying real-world workloads to improve Blue Store even further. We are going to be adding health warnings for highly fragmented OSTs. And there's going to be the stuff that Mark talked about, recompression, defragmentation during Scrub. So really looking forward to these.
With that, I think we'll go on to Crimson next. Matan Breizman will come and give the update here.
Hey everybody, my name is Matan. I'm leading the Crimson project. For those of you who are not familiar with the Crimson project, this is the next generation of the current Ceph OSD implementation, targeting modern storage devices. And I will note, before going over the notes quickly, that we have a dedicated talk after lunch that updates the current status of the project and the next steps. So I will start here, Crimson in Squid. This is the official tech preview of Crimson. We've working on Crimson for quite a while now, and we feel quite confident that this is an appropriate stage for us, or for you as early adopters, to really try it out, give us some early feedbacks for those of you who are brave enough to actually deploy their own Crimson cluster. Of course, not on production environments. We also worked a lot on testing and stability, expanded our testing suite with a lot of edge cases, and added the workloads. We added a C-store to our test suite. C-store is a Crimson native backend. I'll explain about it today in the talk I've mentioned earlier. As far as OSD features, we have Scrub support in Squid. We have recovery and backfill work that it's implemented and should be ready. And erasure coding is still an ongoing work in progress. As far as C-store, we have the basic support is there. The basic backend features are implemented. I won't go over the points because we have a talk for this, but what is the most important news, I think, for this release is that, how can I skip to the next slide? Is that for Tentacle, we plan to switch our backend to C-store by default. C-store, as I said, is the Crimson native architecture. Now we use Blue Store. And we plan to have a lot of performance focus now that we have the stability there and the basic functionality there. And filling up some more OSD features, background scrub, PG splitting, erasure coding, and of course QoS. As far as C-Store, as mentioned, we've started with from scratch implementation, a really simple one, and now we intend to keep scaling it up with performance optimization and more core features of our backend, such as clone range and efficient device steering. And I hope I see you in the talk after lunch. Thank you.
Thanks, Matan. Next, we'll have Matt Benjamin representing the RGW team.
Hi there. So I'm going to emphasize some of the things we've been doing in the last two releases. One of the biggest changes in Squid coming in Ceph Object Storage for S3 is support for IAM user account management, which includes AWS-style root accounts and sub-accounts, and an integration of all of those into all the policy documents and bucket policy and so forth, and roles. There's enhanced support for notifications in Squid also, including a better integration into multi-site replication. We introduced the latest parts of the AWS version 4 request signing for streaming payloads, and there's a new capability for per user and per bucket performance counters. In technical, we're adding support for S3 additional checksums, strong checksums using SHA-256 and so forth, and the corresponding get object attributes APIs. We're introducing an MVP for our intermediate data cache, which was implemented with support by students and professors at the Mass Open Cloud Alliance. We've been upstreaming that. It's a write-back cache for intermediate workloads, or intermediate cache for S3A workloads, particularly for Data Lake. We're introducing optimization for bucket index performance, and a new in-order sharding layout, which will most likely dramatically improve listing performance while preserving the update performance in bucket indexes. And we're introducing new capabilities for S3 backup and cloud tiering.
All right, thank you, Matt. Next, we'll have Ramana speaking about RBD.
So in Squid, we have performance optimizations for backup use case. The QEMU RBD driver, for example, with these performance fixes, has dramatic improvement in performance for live synchronization and backup. We improved the snapshot-based mirroring feature in RBD. We rigorously tested that feature that allows you to mirror images across cluster. So we identified major issues that we've fixed, and we are still stabilizing this feature. And we also improved the usability of group snapshot in the Squid release. Moving on to what's next in the Tentacle release. One of the major features we are introducing is the snapshot-based mirroring of RBD consistency groups that lets you mirror applications that are backed by a group of RBD images. So this is very useful for disaster recovery of such applications backed by a group of images. And we also have enhanced the support of live migration feature in RBD that moves images across clusters and between different pools in the same cluster almost immediately. So in the Tentacle release, as I mentioned, we'll have live migration feature for moving images across cluster, and also other features that we have a talk later today in the afternoon where we'll go into more detail about these features. And the RBD kernel client, we want to enhance its support, leverage the core Ceph features that Neha talked about, like PG upmap read balancer to improve the read performance of RBD, and also the make use of the new crush tool that will allow you to support more EC configuration.
All right, thank you, Ramana. And next, we'll have Aviv Caro speaking about the NVMe over Fabrics Gateway.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Aviv, engineering manager in IBM. So let's talk about Squid. In Squid, the NVMe OF is a technical preview. We don't support multipassing, only a single pass from the initiator to the subsystems and the namespaces. We support up to 256 namespaces. We have Ceph ADM support to deploy and undeploy the gateway. And we have a gateway CLI, which is coming as a separate container to manage the gateway. Yeah, so in Tentacle, we are production ready. We have HA support. We can deploy multiple gateways on the same Ceph cluster to provide high availability, but also load balancing and distribution of the NVMe over TCP workloads across the Ceph nodes and across the NVMe of gateways. We allow to group the gateways in something that we call gateway groups. So each gateway group is like a failover domain. So it provides, you can configure few failover domains, but you can also have more gateways in the Ceph cluster, because in a single gateway group, we are limiting the number of gateways currently to 8 gateways. So overall, with 4 gateway groups in a Ceph cluster, we can get up to 32 gateways in a Ceph cluster. We also support in-band authentication for security, namespace masking, which means that the user can define which host can access which namespaces. So it's not only which subsystem the host can access, but also which specific namespaces in the subsystem the host can access. We support MTLS for security of the management API, of the gRPC API of the gateway. And we also support TLS PSK, which allows you to encrypt the NVMe over TCP data across the fiber. For scalability, so currently we support up to 128 subsystems in a gateway group. We support up to 1K of namespaces in a gateway group. So once again, if you run few gateway groups, you can get up to 4K namespaces currently in a Ceph cluster. We also support dashboard. We have a dashboard support, Prometheus alerts, and a lot of automation testing, including tautology testing. Thank you.
Thanks, Aviv. Next up, we have Venky Shankar with SFS.
Yeah. Hey, folks. So let's go through what we have in Squid, starting off with addressing user space pain points for users who use multi-MDS and frequently run into like issues with journals and all kinds of warnings. This has been improved a lot, and hopefully the warning should be very less or almost go away. At the same time, we have improvements in the trimming part. So we, another user pain point, which is where the MDS journal gets slow in trimming and we get all sorts of warnings, so that's been addressed. Then we have a very nice Quies API for taking consistent snapshots. Finally, we have the kernel FS script support for encrypted subvolumes. Next, the NFS Ganesha memory improvements, which a change which is about to emerge and backported, which will greatly improve the scalability of the number of congruent clients, NFS Ganesha clients. There's a host of fixes in manager volumes, which makes it much more scalable. Fantastic work on that. Again, lots of UX paper cuts, improvements all around the CephFS code base, and lots of testing and system hardening. Next slide, please. Yeah, for Tentacle, the highlight feature is obviously the case insensitive directories, which is very major, which will solve a very major performance with Samba. And next we have the CephFS subvolumes metadata, which we plan to put it in lib Ceph SQLite, again to solve a host of corner cases and things like that. Stabilization of the FS script user space, which is again, on the same lines of the kernel FS script support. So we have now FS script support with libceffs, and again, all around improvements with playing nice with protocols like NFS and Samba. Fantastic work. And we have a talk, me and Patrick have a talk tomorrow So try not to miss that. It's just before lunch.
Thanks, Venky. Next, we have Nizam from the dashboard team.
Hey everyone, I'm Nizam. I'm representing the dashboard team on behalf of Afreen, actually, who is the tech lead right now. Over the dashboard, we are continuously, improving or make it easier the advanced CLI configuration that you have, and it makes it better for the newer users to onboard to the Ceph. So as part of that, we have already have the full CephFS management in the Squid release. We also focused on more of the RGW advanced workflows, the more requested ones where the user policies, the IAM policies, and the RGW roles, bucket policies, and all those things. So they're all there in the Squid release right now. We also have the RGW multi-site workflows that where all the multi-site workflow, it takes a lot of steps to configure the whole multi-site there. But in the dashboard, we have made it more simplified. So there's a whole workflow there to set up the multi-site in a single go. And we are also delivering more and more continuous UX improvements in the UI. That's more or less on what we have on the Squid. And when you go over the Tentacle, again, the whole thing continues. Again, we have added more and more management activities there. The important one being the multi-cluster management, so you have the ability to manage every cluster that you have on a single dashboard itself. So that's the multi-cluster management. We also have, like Aviv mentioned, we also have the NVMe of TCP management in the dashboard. Again, the multi-site automation, which actually works on top of the multi-cluster itself. So you have multi-cluster and you have multi-site work automation, and you get to do everything at a single go. The OAuth to SSO integration, that's more or less covered by the Cephalopod actually, but it's like a single stack that single security stack that works that is there on top of the management and monitoring stacks. So you get to, with a single SSO, you get to authenticate to the dashboard and all the other monitoring stacks that are there. And we are also planning for the SMB management. The work is just underway. Will be, by the end of Tentacle release, we'll have the whole SMB management there in the dashboard as well. And on the monitoring, yeah, we have a lot of other dashboards there on the Grafana, and on the UX, we are moving away from the bootstraps and adopting the Carbon design systems, and yeah, more improvements on the Angular and upgrading the monitoring stacks version. So we are taking care of the CVEs and every other stuff. And whatever I said above, right, it doesn't just applies to the dashboard. It also goes over to the Ceph RESTful API. So whatever new features that we are exposed, it's also there in the APIs that are there. Yep. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Neha. And we have Redo from the Ceph ADM team.
Hello, thank you. My name is Redouane. I'm software architect at IBM, and I'm here representing the Ceph ADM. So basically, this is what we have already introduced in Squid. We got improved Samba support, which includes sidecar containers, orchestration, deployment. It's already complete in Squid. Samba Manager model, it was in progress in Squid, so we can configure clusters, export, and also to fix some issues. We made some improvements in the binary. So the binary now is zip-up binary. It's not Python script anymore. So that gives us the flexibility to improve the code base and to be able to reuse more components in the binary. We have also introduced regular expression patterns for placements. We also introduced the environment of deployment. Now it is from Squid, it is support by Ceph ADM. We still have some work to do there, so we are targeting that in the next release. We have also introduced support for the CI-signed SHKs. So this way, basically, everybody can manage easily the SSS infrastructure, and instead of needing to deploy the public keys in every host, you can just use one root CI key to sign certificates, and then the certificates are used by CephADM to do whatever he has to do on the different hosts. We also introduced the possibility to mark some nodes, to block some nodes for deploying daemons, so we can have some nodes dedicated to run clients. So this way we deploy the K-rings on these nodes, so we can run clients from there. Finally, in Squid, we also introduced some improvements to zapping those Ds, as part of the host procedure. Moving to Tentacle, so basically we'll be continue working on the Samba orchestration. There is a lot of work and enhancements going there. We're also working on introducing multi-architecture image support for CephADM. So this way CephADM will be able to detect the architecture of the host automatically and will be using the containers depending on the architecture. We will also introduce some simplifications in those day management. So we are introducing one-shot orchestration and also a new flag to no replace marker for those Ds to make it easier. We are also introducing some improvements for disconnected environments to make it easier to manage. And we are introducing a lot of new security improvements. There will be a new service, the management gateway, that will act as a single entry to the whole cluster, hiding all the complexities behind. It will act like a reverse proxy in front of all the services, so the user shouldn't scare anymore of accessing any of the management stack, like the dashboard or any monitoring component running behind. At the same time, we are also introducing a new service, the up2 proxy, which basically provides single sign-on based on the IDC protocol, WAF2. So this way, you can configure the CephADM to deploy this stack and to configure your IDP of choice, enhancing the security. So this way, customers can use their IDP, to manage the authentication for all the services running in the cluster. We are also improving the monitoring high availability support. We use it to have some partial support for that, but now the support should be complete. So customer and users can configure the monitoring at their needs. And finally, this is one of the pain points of the user. We're aware of that, and we'll be introducing some automation around the certificates management. So the idea is to give the user the possibility to configure the certificates easily and to automate the management of certificates by using the ACME protocol. Not sure if the ACME protocol will make it to Tentacle. That's the idea, so let's see. Yeah, and that's it, mainly. Thank you.
Thank you, Redouane. Travis, Nielsen will speak about Rook.
Hi, I'm Travis, one of the original creators of the Rook project and lead maintainer. So Rook is a separate project from Ceph in GitHub. So we have our own set of release schedules and everything. But just to give an overall timeline of what's happening right now related to Squid, and we're also supporting Reef and what's coming with Tentacle. Object stores is an area of development where we need to just support what Ceph has coming and has there. So like DNS virtual style for hosting buckets, creating multiple object stores with shared pools, where each one is isolated by its own set of Rados pools or Rados namespaces. We had some contributions from upstream community for Keystone authentication for S3 and Swift, and then for pool placements, supporting those that have been there for a while with RGW. And with all this work, it's about doing it in a way that's native for Kubernetes with CRDs and all of that. So we also have tools for troubleshooting Ceph with a Rook kubectl plugin. It's a CLI tool for running Ceph with day 2 operations. And then Azure Key Vault with KMS support for encrypting OSDs. The next slide. So coming up with Tentacle, we depend on a feature for mirroring for Rados namespaces that will be included in Tentacle. And then in our next release, just next week, we're planning our next Rook release. We've got OSD migration so that you can replace your OSDs, and Rook will automate replacing each of them one by one. So you can enable encryption or other key OSD features where the only way to enable them is to replace the OSDs. So lots of other features going on. This is just a sampling of them. And we'll dive more into this in the Rook talk tomorrow afternoon. And feel free to find me for any Rook or Kubernetes discussions. Happy to talk to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Travis. Nielsen is next for Ceph CSI.
Yeah, so I'm Niels. I work for the Ceph CSI team. CSI is not really part of Ceph itself. CSI is a container storage interface specification. It's a protocol that Kubernetes and other container platforms speak to storage drivers or storage vendors. Ceph CSI is like the interface between Ceph and, in many cases, Kubernetes or OpenShift. There's also support for Docker. It's a protocol that's independent of the actual platform that runs the containers. For the last release, we included volume group snapshot support, which was a major effort, mostly in the upstream Kubernetes communities. The implementation in RBD was relatively straightforward, I think. That's handled all by the RBD team. CephFS already supported volume group snapshots, and we can just use that straightly. However, getting everything included in Kubernetes and the other platforms is way more difficult and more time-consuming than actual getting it in Ceph. But we're very proud that it's now included, and it's beta in Kubernetes, so the next releases of OpenShift will finally have volume group snapshot support. This is like consistency groups for people that are more into the storage terminology. We have different ways of replicating block storage RBD volumes for disaster recovery. So they replicate to another Ceph cluster. If you create a snapshot, restore or clone the snapshot into a new volume, and use it a number of times, then there are some difficulties in the RBD layer. So we add flattening support. So every RBD image that evenly got cloned, they get a standalone image, and we flatten it before we actually enable the replication so that the image is completely replicated and there's no need to do complex migration of snapshots. This makes it way more stable and more practical for users. So that's very nice to have. Ceph CSI can be deployed in many different ways. Rook is one way to deploy it. Travis left, but they have their own deployment mechanism. Ceph CSI has Helm charts for the people that are familiar with Kubernetes. Helm is a very standard way of deploying things. And we have separate YAML files that users can just apply, and Ceph CSI gets deployed. So there's at least 3 ways, and probably more, that users invent themselves. The Ceph CSI operator is intended to be a single project that covers all the options of deploying Ceph CSI and gives it a standard way of doing so. So Rook will consume this, and all the other ways of deploying Ceph CSI will basically be replaced by the Ceph CSI operator, so that there's a single deployment mechanism to maintain, and it will be easier for users. We also have enhanced way of encryption key rotation for encrypted volumes. The next release is mirroring of volume groups. That's work done in RBD currently. We are working on space-efficient replication for cloned volumes. So instead of flattening everything, we actually will be able to do smarter ways. I think it's with RBD diffing based. Similar it is to change block tracking, so to create actual more efficient backups. Users create a snapshot and they back up the snapshot, and they create a snapshot later on, and they want to only back up the difference between both snapshots, That's something called change block tracking that's introduced in the CSI specification. Currently, it's being worked on in the upstream Kubernetes projects that we have, and we are supporting that with Ceph CSI and our work in the upstream Kubernetes community. We already have shallow cloning for CephFS, basically mounting a CephFS snapshot instead of creating a full volume out of the snapshot, so cloning the snapshot and providing a full snapshot or a full volume to the end user. Cloning takes a lot of time, and mounting the CephFS snapshot, if the user wants to read only snapshot for backups, is way faster. This is what we also are going to introduce with RBD and with NFS. And for multi-tenant clusters that want to do disaster recovery on a second Ceph cluster, we need Radel support for mirroring with different source and target namespaces. So currently the namespaces expected to be the same. However, if users have different clusters, there's no guarantee that each cluster has the exact same tenants or the tenants are named the same, and we need a way of mapping one tenant, basically the namespace in Rails, to another namespace on the destination cluster, making sure that multi-tenancy and disaster recovery actually work together. That's it for Ceph CSI. If there are any questions, please come by afterwards. Okay, yes, sure. Yeah. So I only started the project later on, but I just learned that CERN started Ceph CSI at the beginning. It's been there for quite a few years now. I started like 3-4 years ago to contribute to it. So before my time, CERN, and we still get contributions occasionally from CERN. We get contributions from SUSE or Canonical CLISO. So it's a very multi-vendor and multi-organization project. So thanks.
Thanks, Niels. Next we have Yaarit to speak about telemetry.
Hey everyone, my name is Yaarit, and I lead the telemetry project. So for Squid, we added a new flag to tell whether the cluster is a Crimson cluster. We did some more analysis at the back end of our metrics, and we added a new dynamic dashboard to tell the capacity utilization by storage class and according to the cluster size. And for Tentacle, we intend to add some more data collections about the cluster usage, like to tell whether it's a stretch cluster and to tell whether we have multi-site. We also intend to add the scrub metrics collection to the perf channel and to do some more perf counters analysis. So happy to take any questions. Feel free to reach out, and we have a talk tomorrow, so you're all welcome.
Thanks, Yaarit. I've got Zach Dover for Docs.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Zach Dover. I'm the head of upstream docs for the Ceph Foundation. I will try to be brief. We have the beginner's guide now at docs.ceph.com. I would like to crowdsource a group of 15 to 25 common commands. So if you're not used to using Ceph and you want to know which commands you should use, please talk to me at this. I'll be somewhere during it. I'll be findable. The IcePick initiative was something that we talked about in Amsterdam, which is improving the online help, starting with the most common CLI. Josh and I probably will put this to bed next week. Maybe, right?
We'll make a good start at least.
We'll make a good start. We line it at the docs every day. I've already got like 3 pull requests in today. I want to recognize Anthony Datry, who is our most prolific upstream contributor. He's somewhere in the room. Yes, he deserves a round of applause. We've also had very good contributions from the upstream. In particular, Eugen Block and John Jason have made excellent contributions this year. I don't know if they're here or not, but anyway. Ceph Quarterly is something that Josh and I came up with in the Munich train station last year, which is a summary of the previous 3 months of Ceph development. My dream had been that it would all fit on one A4 page. It's too much. So it's more pages than that. It's on ceph.io. You can find it in the community tab. It, I don't know, might be the most exciting periodical in the history of publication. And this is the documentation bugs URL. If you find something in the documentation that you don't like or that is wrong, I don't care if you don't like it, it's your problem, write to me and send me an email at this email and put the string DOC in the subject line. It will go to my phone, and if I'm not doing anything, I will get back to you immediately. I will be available to talk to. You're all invited to speak to me directly about the documentation, about anything. I will, with any luck, be wherever the food is. That's it for me.
Thanks, Zach. All right. The next part is around technology, build, and CI. The relevant folks couldn't all be here today, so I'll just briefly mention a few things we're looking at. One is a better developer experience with being able to test things locally, and particularly what we discussed more at the Dev Summit yesterday was around having a developer-specific container so you don't have to build everything from scratch. You can have a good baseline to start from and just speed up everything and have a more consistent environment for development. There's a bunch of improvements as well around the build system, making builds more efficient, making the whole upstream testing process more streamlined and faster, so that we can improve development velocity and reduce the need for how much hardware we use. Finally, we have Mark Nielsen to talk more about performance.
Hey, let's see. Here we go. Excellent. All right, we are past time, so I'm going to try to be as quick as I can on all this. So, guys, earlier this year, we achieved 1 terabyte per second with Ceph. Right? Right? And what's exciting about this is not just the number that we hit, but the fact that we achieved such good scaling. We talk about scaling here a lot. This is a concrete example of how Ceph can scale. This was up to about 630 OSDs. Not a particularly huge cluster, decent sized for sure, but a terabyte per second with a cluster that size means that we can actually go a lot farther. I know a couple of different people in the storage industry at other vendors, and in terms of performance, Ceph was not necessarily on their radar. After we released this, we're on their radar. I want to say that all of these results, this is the contribution of many different people in the community. Whether or not you work on docs, or if you work on Teuthology, or you're working on the infrastructure that supports our labs, this is you. This is the work that you do. So congratulations to everybody here. Everyone, operators, everyone that works on Ceph, this is you. So thank you, guys. Okay, next slide. All right, we're going to just quickly say, we talked about EC partial read earlier and EC partial write. This is how big of a deal this is. In terms of IOPS, compared to what Ceph was prior to this work, we're seeing dramatic, huge improvements. And not just performance, but in terms of efficiency, it's massive. This is the kind of thing that's going to drive Ceph to become much, much better in terms of overall TCO and performance as we progress forward. All right, next slide. And all right, lots of themes. I'm not going to go into super high detail on this kind of stuff, but specifically I wanted to highlight on the RGW side, there's a lot of work going into our threading model that is I think, going to be really, really good. So very good job for the RGW team working on this. Next slide. There's the team, a performance team at IBM is going to be doing a lot of work coming up, working on benchmarking improvements. And I guess I think let's just go on because we're past time. And yeah, I just wanted to highlight that that really, from a performance standpoint, part of this is performance, and part of this is efficiency that we're trying to drive. There's a lot of interesting stuff coming in terms of hardware, and on the software side, there's a lot of things that we can do to support that. So yeah, this is what we're focusing on. So I think that's next. I think that's it. So thank you, everyone, and we'll try to give you as much of your time here as we can for the break. Yep.